Whether you're joining us while rocking your baby to sleep, cooking dinner, or just taking a moment for yourself, thank you for taking the time to be here. Thank you so much to our partners at Sanofi, the National Black Leadership Commission on Health, the Black Mamas Matter Alliance, the Partnership for Maternal and Child Health of Northern New Jersey, and the YMCA of South Florida for bringing us together and making this webinar happen. My name is Neki Mohan, and I'm honored to guide this conversation tonight. I spent years as a journalist and a storyteller, and now I work to uplift multicultural voices and connect communities. But most importantly, I'm here as someone who cares deeply about the health and well-being of our families. I'm joined by two incredible women, Dr. Kerry-Anne Perkins, a board-certified OB-GYN, and Clementine Sekyere, a mother of two who's here to share her real-life experience with RSV. Good evening, Dr. Perkins.
Good evening, everyone, and good evening, Neki. I'm so honored to be here, and I'm grateful for this opportunity to join in this very important conversation. I look forward to learning from each of us and sharing insights from my experience. Thank you.
Good evening, Clementine.
Good evening, Neki, and thank you guys for having me here. It's a privilege to be here.
Thank you, ladies. Happy you're joining us. Tonight is really about all of us coming together as a community to talk about something that doesn't always get enough attention. RSV, otherwise known as Respiratory Syncytial Virus. It's something that can seriously affect our babies. Black and Hispanic children may be at greater risk, and conversations aren't always happening soon enough. We know that in our communities, we often carry the weight of caregiving, decision-making, and advocacy. And sometimes we're doing all of that without access to the full picture. And that is why this space matters. It is a chance to get informed, ask questions, and walk away feeling more confident about the choices we make for our kids. Tonight, you'll hear expert advice from Dr. Perkins, who not only brings medical knowledge, but the perspective of a mom. And you'll also hear from Clementine, who's lived through RSV with one child and made a different choice for her second. Their stories are powerful, and they're here to support you. We'll also be using polls throughout the session to hear from you, so don't be shy. Your voice matters in this space. There'll also be time at the end to go over some audience questions in case you think of something you'd like to ask during this discussion. And please stay with us through the very end of the webinar if you'd like to complete a quick survey. Before we dive into our discussion, we'd love to hear from you through our first poll of the evening, and that is, do you know what RSV is? Really want to hear what you guys have to say. There's no wrong answer. That's why we're having this discussion. Do you know what RSV is? All right, waiting for our poll because that's the purpose of all of this discussion tonight. We want to make sure you guys get the information you need to make the right decisions to help protect your children. All right, waiting for our poll of the evening. I feel like I play the Jeopardy music. Oh, wow. Really informed audience tonight. 70% of you know what RSV is. This is the perfect time to jump into our very first topic, which is understanding why RSV matters. And Dr. Perkins, I'm going to throw that to you. Can you help us understand what RSV is in simple terms?
Absolutely. As both a mom and a doctor, I know how overwhelming it can be to sort out through all the health information that's out there. There's a ton of it, but RSV is something we really need to talk about. As Neki mentioned, RSV stands for Respiratory Syncytial Virus. It's a highly contagious virus that affects the lungs and the breathing passages. For most adults and some older kids, RSV just feels like a cold. But for babies, especially those under 1 year, it can be really, really serious. Babies don't have the same ability to fight off infections like older kids because their immune systems are still developing. That's why RSV can hit them harder. Now, what makes RSV tricky is how fast it can go from mild to severe. One day it's a stuffy nose, and the next, your baby could be struggling to breathe. There's no way for us to predict which babies will have it progress to the lungs or which will be hospitalized for RSV. Even babies born healthy and full term can get a serious RSV lung infection. And I know that sounds scary, but knowing what to look for and how to act can actually make all the difference.
Thank you, Dr. Perkins. That is so helpful. I think a lot of parents don't realize how quickly things can change. The fact that babies under the age of 1 are particularly vulnerable is also so important to know. And for many of us, RSV isn't something we hear about much until we're already in the thick of it. So let's take a step back. Can you help us understand, Dr. Perkins, just how common RSV is?
Yeah, 2 out of 3 babies, that's 2 out of 3 babies will get RSV by age 1. So, we see it all the time, but unfortunately, we can't predict which ones will get really sick. What many parents don't realize is that for some babies, RSV can lead to serious breathing problems and even hospitalization. And while hospitalization is uncommon, RSV is a leading cause for hospitalization for infants under the age of 1 in the United States. We know the danger of the flu is a common concern for parents, right? But did you know that babies historically have been 16 times more likely to be hospitalized with RSV than with the flu?
Wow, thank you, Dr. Perkins. That really puts things in perspective. That's why we're having this conversation. I think a lot of us hear common cold and assume it's no big deal. But what you just shared makes it really clear that RSV is something we need to take seriously, especially for the little ones. I want to pause on something you said, that RSV is actually a leading cause of hospitalization for babies under 1. And that's not something most parents hear about at their baby's checkups. And the fact that it's historically been 16 times more likely than the flu to lead to hospitalization, that is really eye-opening. Now that you've painted a picture for us about how common this virus is, could you tell us about how RSV spreads?
Absolutely. Unfortunately, RSV spreads easily through coughs, kisses, sneezes, or even snuggling one of, your baby's favorite toy. That's why things like washing hands, keeping sick visitors away, and being mindful in crowded places are so important during RSV season. It's also important to know that RSV season isn't the same everywhere. It's most prevalent during the winter virus season, usually starting somewhere in November through March. But in places like Florida and other parts of the Southeast, it can start as early as late summer. So RSV might be in a different season at different times, depending on where you live.
Such great reminders for all of us. I keep thinking about what you said earlier, Dr. Perkins. It's hard to imagine that something that starts like a cold turning into a trip to the ER. Clementine, you've lived through all of this with your children. Would you be open to sharing how RSV has affected your family?
Absolutely. For my firstborn, Nolan, he was 8 months old when he got RSV lung infection. What initially we thought was a common cold ended up as a trip to the ER. Initially, it was a cough, and then it progressed quickly into him wheezing, which was really scary because he was struggling to breathe. And I felt so helpless as a mom. Thankfully, he did not get admitted, and we got discharged with some supportive care to go home. RSV has changed my awareness because I have the knowledge needed now due to do my own research and to know how to move forward with it.
What a powerful story. Thank you, Clementine, for being so open. That kind of honesty helps parents feel less alone. It's also a reminder that RSV isn't just a medical term, it's something that touches real families in real ways. Dr. Perkins, we know RSV doesn't affect all communities equally. Can you speak to that?
It's not because our babies aren't healthy or strong, but because of the systemic barriers that many in our communities face. less access to care, fewer early conversations with doctors or nurses as well, and challenges around maternal health. It's not about biology, it's about equity. It's about who gets access to early care, who gets the right information at the right time, and who feels empowered to ask questions. As an OB-GYN, I truly see how these gaps show up even before a baby is born. And that's why education and advocacy are really, truly so important. We also know that in many of our communities, there's a strong culture of family and togetherness, which is a beautiful thing, but it can also mean more exposure to germs, especially during holidays or big gatherings. So it's about finding the balance between connection and protection.
Absolutely. Clementine, after listening to what Dr. Perkins shared about how access and information can vary so much between communities, I'm curious, did you feel like you had the information you needed when your first baby got sick?
Yes, for me, thankfully, I did. It's what I do for a living. I'm a nurse practitioner by trade. So I did have the knowledge and background of RSV. However, I wasn't working with kids when Nolan had RSV. I felt supported enough, thankfully, because I had the doctors there that I could ask questions. Some barriers I faced was just being a full-time employee with my husband also, who had a full-time job, juggling a sick kid, which made it really difficult during this time because we had to juggle schedules and make sure that somebody was home to take care of Nolan.
I'm sure that experience made your experience with your second baby a whole lot different.
Yes, it definitely did. Thankfully, our second born did not contract RSV lung infection, and that was because we were prepared the second time around.
Mm. This story is something so many parents can relate to, and that's why we're having this important conversation to make sure more families get the information they need sooner. Dr. Perkins, I want to switch gears and talk about RSV symptoms. When it comes to RSV, what are some signs parents should watch for?
Absolutely. See, early on, RSV can look like a regular cold with a runny nose, a little congestion, and maybe even a little fever. But if it spreads to the lungs, you might see fast or shallow breathing, wheezing, or your baby may have trouble eating and staying awake. If your baby's lips or fingernails start to look bluish, or if they're really struggling to breathe, that's a sign to get medical help right away. And, trust your gut. If something feels off, even if it doesn't tick all the boxes, don't wait. Call your pediatrician, family doctor, or even your clinic right away. You know your baby best.
That instinct is so important. And that is so important to know. And I just want to pause here and say, if you've ever felt unsure or overwhelmed, you're not alone. Parenting doesn't come with a manual, even though we wish it did. And we are all learning as we go. Clementine, as you were going through this, did you find any resources that helped you feel more confident?
Yes. I did a good old Google search. Was very helpful, and also I also checked my textbooks that I got in school, and also to speaking to my providers to make sure that they know about RSV lung infection and what they could help me, give me any information that I needed to help support my little one.
That's exactly what this is all about. Knowledge is power. When we know better, we can do better for our babies. In this next section, we want to talk more about what you can do to help protect your baby from serious RSV lung infections, including an option that's giving parents more peace of mind. Now that we've talked about what RSV is, let's shift gears and talk about what you can do to help protect your baby. But first, here's a quick question for you. Do you know the difference between a preventative antibody and a vaccine? Again, do you know the difference between a preventative antibody and a vaccine? As we wait for the poll to come in, we want everyone to participate. Again, remember, this conversation is for you, and we want to make sure that you are getting all the information that you need. So important in this conversation as we help you to protect your baby with this conversation and giving you all this powerful information. All right, the answers are in. 40% of the audience knows the difference between antibodies and a vaccine. That is a great place to start. Now, it is perfectly okay if you don't know the difference between a preventive antibody and a vaccine. That's what Dr. Perkins is here to explain. The next part of the webinar is actually a short pre-recorded message from Dr. Perkins. She's going to walk us through a preventive option that's helping parents feel more confident during RSV season. Dr. Perkins will explain how this preventive option works and what parents need to know about safety, timing, and access. But before we play this video, I want to take a moment to read important safety information. Beyfortus is a prescription medication used to help prevent serious lung infection, lung disease caused by the Respiratory Syncytial Virus, RSV, in newborns and babies under 1 year of age, born during or entering their first RSV season. I'm going to say that again. Beyfortus is a prescription medicine used to help prevent a serious lung disease caused by respiratory syncytial virus in newborns and babies under 1 year of age, born during or entering their first RSV season. Children up to 24 months of age who remain at risk of severe RSV disease through their second RSV season. Your child should not take Beyfortus if your child has a history of serious allergic reactions to nirsevimab-alip or any ingredients in Beyfortus. Before your child receives Beyfortus, tell your healthcare provider about all of your child's medical conditions, including if your child has ever had a reaction to Beyfortus, has bleeding or bruising problems. If your child has a problem with bleeding or bruising easily, an injection could cause a problem. Tell your healthcare provider about all the medicines your child takes, including prescription and over-the-counter medicines, vitamins, and herbal supplements. Your infant should not receive a medicine called palivizumab if they have already received Beyfortus in the same RSV season. Again, your infant should not receive a medicine called palivizumab if they have already received Beyfortus in the same RSV season. Serious allergic reactions have happened with Beyfortus. Get medical help right away if your child has any of the following signs or symptoms of a serious allergic reaction: swelling of the face, mouth, or tongue, difficulty swallowing or breathing, unresponsiveness, bluish color of skin, lips, or under fingernails, muscle weakness, severe rash, hives, or itching. The most common side effects of Beyfortus include rash and pain, swelling, or hardness at the site of your child's injection. These are not all the possible side effects of Beyfortus. Call your healthcare provider if you have questions about side effects. Please click the links in the comments for full prescribing information, including patient information. And now let's take a look at the message from Dr. Perkins.
As an OB-GYN, I play a critical role in guiding expecting moms through some of the most important decisions they'll make, from preparing for birth to understanding how to protect their newborns in those early, vulnerable months. I've had countless conversations with parents who just want to do what's best for their baby, especially when it comes to preventing illnesses like serious RSV lung infection. That's why I want to take a moment to talk about something that's giving many families peace of mind: Beyfortus. What is Beyfortus? It's an FDA-approved preventive antibody that helps protect babies from serious lung infections caused by RSV. It was made for babies under the age of 1 born during or entering their first RSV season, as well as some high-risk babies up to 24 months of age. Now, I want to mention that Beyfortus isn't a vaccine. It's a shot that gives your baby preventive antibodies to help guard against serious RSV lung infections. But what's the difference between vaccines and preventive antibodies? Vaccines are like self-defense instructors. They teach the body to make its own antibodies, which means vaccines build protection over time. Beyfortus works differently. It's a preventive antibody which acts like a bodyguard. Our bodies naturally make antibodies that help us fight infections, but a baby's immune system hasn't developed enough to make the antibodies they need for protection. Beyfortus gives them these antibodies, which arms your baby with an extra layer of protection that they need while their immune system is still developing. These antibodies are designed to stick to the RSV virus and block it from infecting your baby's lungs. That means your baby doesn't have to wait for their immune system to catch up. They're protected within days of the antibody entering their system. When can your baby get Beyfortus? If your baby is born in the fall or in the winter, when RSV is most common, they should receive Beyfortus at the hospital before going home or at their first well visit. If they're born in the spring or the summer, they can get it from their pediatrician at a regular well visit just before RSV season. And for babies who are at high risk, like those born with certain health conditions, your baby's doctor may recommend a second dose before their second RSV season. As a mom myself, I know many parents have questions about safety. The most common side effects are mild to moderate, things like swelling or redness at the injection site or rash. Serious allergic reactions have occurred but are extremely rare. Why did I choose Beyfortus for my own baby? I chose this option for my daughter after talking with her pediatrician because I knew the preventive antibodies in Beyfortus would help provide fast-acting protection against serious RSV lung infection. I also liked the idea that my baby would be protected for 5 months. It gave me peace of mind knowing she had that extra layer of protection. So far, over 6 million babies have already received Beyfortus. But as always, if you have concerns, talk to your child's doctor. As a mom, I know how overwhelming it can be to make decisions about your baby's health. But I also know how powerful it feels to have options and to feel confident in those options. Why should you feel confident choosing Beyfortus for your baby? Beyfortus is part of the CDC's recommended child and adolescent immunization schedule. It is also supported by the American Academy of Pediatrics and the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists. If you're curious about whether Beyfortus is right for your baby, I encourage you to talk to your child's doctor. Ask questions. Share your concerns. You deserve answers that make you feel confident. When we're informed, we're empowered. And that's how we protect our little ones.
Thank you so much, Dr. Perkins, for explaining how Beyfortus works. And thanks to all of you for staying engaged. Clementine, earlier you shared what it was like when your first baby got RSV. I know things were different the second time around. Can you tell us what made you decide to choose Beyfortus for your younger child, and how did that experience feel compared to the first?
Yes. So with this first time, with how helpless and scared we were with Nolan having RSV lung infection, we just wanted to make sure that the second one would not experience that. So our pediatrician naturally brought it up to our attention and mentioned Beyfortus. We were hesitant at first, but we also made sure that we did our own due diligence and research to make sure that we were okay with giving that to Liam. We went ahead and he got it, and based on the CDC recommendation, it gave us all the more reason to go for it.
Yeah. And what encouragement can you give to other parents to ask questions and speak up early?
Yes, please. It's okay to have questions, and it's also important for you to do your own due diligence and doing your own research. Your pediatrician can talk to you, but you are the best advocate for your child. You know what your child needs. So make sure you do your own research and make the best decision for your little one.
So well said. Thank you so much for sharing that, Clementine. It's powerful to hear how your experience shaped the way you approach things the second time around. I think a lot of parents can relate to that feeling of wanting to be more prepared. And your story shows just how important it is to ask questions and speak up early for your baby. That kind of confidence is exactly what we hope every parent walks away with tonight. Now that we've talked about what RSV is and how to help protect your baby, let's take the next step. Let's talk about the next step, how to get Beyfortus. Because knowing is one thing, but feeling confident enough to speak up and ask for what your baby needs is where the real power is. Even if your baby's doctor brings it up first, we want you to feel ready to ask the right questions and make the best decision for your family. But let's check in with another quick poll. Do you know what the Vaccines for Children program is, or VFC? Really excited to see how many of you have heard of this, and really excited to explain to you what it is. And Dr. Perkins will also stop on that. We'll also touch on that. See, a lot of you are engaging in the chat, speaking about your experience with RSV. So we know how important this discussion is, and we know how receptive you are to all the information being shared tonight. Again, waiting for the answers for the poll. Do you know what the Vaccines for Children program is, or VFC? 30% of you knows what the VFC program is. Well, we're certainly glad you're taking the time to be with us tonight, because we really want to talk about this great resource, especially for those 70% of you who may not be familiar with it. The VFC, or Vaccines for Children program, is a federally funded program that makes immunizations like Beyfortus available at no cost to children whose families might not be able to pay for them. We're going to talk more about the VFC later in this session, as this part of the conversation is all about taking action, how to talk to your doctor or pediatrician, what to ask, and how to make sure cost or access don't stand in the way of protecting your baby. Dr. Perkins, for parents who are interested in Beyfortus, what is the best way to bring it up with their doctor?
That's a great question. I always tell parents, you don't have to wait for your doctor to bring it up. I encourage them to ask about it. You can say something like, I want to help my baby be protected from RSV, and I've heard Beyfortus can help. When would be the best time for my baby to get Beyfortus? Questions like these open the door to conversation about timing, whether it's the right fit for your baby, and what you can expect. Your baby's pediatrician should be familiar with Beyfortus, but if your doctor isn't familiar with it, that's okay too. You can ask them to do some research and look into it, or refer you to someone who is. You have every right to ask questions and get clear answers. Remember, timing is very important. It matters too. If your baby is born just before or during the RSV season, typically October to March, Beyfortus is ideally given at birth or during the first well visit. So if you're expecting during these months, it's a good idea to plan ahead with your doctor and talk to them about making Beyfortus a part of your birth plan. Now, for babies born April to September, Beyfortus is usually given just before RSV season starting, somewhere around October 1st. It can be given at any doctor's visit. And whether it's a well visit, a sick visit, or another appointment, you can still have this discussion, and you can still get this administered.
Great information, Dr. Perkins. Clementine, could you expand on this? Could you walk us through, from your personal experience, walk us through the timeline for getting Beyfortus for your second baby? And as you were going through this, how did you bring it up with your doctor?
Absolutely. So Liam was born on September 30th, right before RSV season. So on his third well visit, his doctor actually mentioned it for us. And of course, I was all on board with it because his older brother had the RSV lung infection. And we remembered how helpless and scared we were as parents. So we made sure we did our due diligence. And of course, we were happy with what we read, and we had him administer to to Liam.
Wow, that's great information. How did it feel to be more prepared the second time around?
We felt relieved knowing that he has something on board because his older brother goes to school and comes back home with all these germs.
Every parent can relate to those germ monsters going to daycare and bringing them home. So great, great, great points. That is such a great example how speaking up can make such a difference, especially since timing is so important when it comes to protecting your baby from RSV. Like Dr. Perkins said, if your baby is born October through March, Beyfortus is ideally given at birth or during the first well visit. Dr. Perkins, a lot of families, especially those watching their budget, might be wondering about the cost of Beyfortus. Can you talk to us about how Beyfortus is covered and what should parents know?
Absolutely. The good news is that for many families in the United States, Beyfortus is available at no cost, either with insurance or through the Vaccines for Children program, or the VFC. As Neki mentioned earlier, VFC is a federally funded program that makes immunizations like Beyfortus available for free to children whose families might not be able to pay for them. I'm glad we got the opportunity to talk about this program because it truly is important that every baby has access to healthcare, no matter their family's financial situation. So if your child is on Medicaid or CHIP or doesn't have health insurance at all, they may qualify for VFC. And many pediatricians and clinics across the country participate in the program. It's important also to know that this option exists because no family should miss out on protection just because of cost. So if you're not sure about Beyfortus and whether or not it's covered, ask your doctor or clinic if they participate in the VFC program. And if you're still not sure about where to start, your local health department or community health center can be a great resource. They can help guide you through the entire process.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Dr. Perkins. I just want to remind every parent listening that you are your child's best advocate. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to speak up. Whether it's about RSV, Beyfortus, or anything else, you deserve answers and your baby deserves protection. Clementine, any final thoughts on what helped you feel confident as a mom going through this?
Knowledge is power. Doing your own research and getting the information needed can help you best make the best decision for your little one. So it's important for parents out there to do your own research, not just listen to what your doctor say, but whatever they say, go look it up for yourself. So you have the power to do that. And based on that, you can make that decision for your little one.
Thank you so much. It is so important. And that's what this is all about: community, confidence, and care. We're not just here to share information. We're here to remind you that you are not alone. There are resources, there are doctors and nurses who care, and that there are other parents walking this journey with you. Up next, we're going to open the floor for your questions in our Q&A session. We've covered a lot of ground tonight, from understanding RSV to learning how to help protect your baby and advocate for their care. Now we want to hear what's on your mind. We'll start with some of the common questions we've heard from parents. We're going to answer as many as we can in the time we have left. Question number one: how can I help spread the word to other parents in the community that might not know about RSV, or to help protect their babies? Dr. Perkins, would you like to handle that one?
Yeah, definitely. Sometimes I think it just begins with conversations, talking with each other. Knowledge is power, as Clementine said earlier. And if we just start communicating with each other and asking things like, hey, have you heard about RSV? That can open up the conversation to having so much information shared between each other. You don't have to be an expert. You just have to care and show each other that you care.
awesome. And I'm having some lighting issues. My light went away, but I'm going to throw the next question to Clementine. Clementine, talk about how you spread the word to other parents in your community once you went through this experience. I'm going to turn a light on.
Oh. Yes. Like I mentioned, you have to share your story, just like Dr. Perkins said. Sharing your story is so important because you don't know who is going through the same thing you are experiencing. Having a child with RSV lung infection can be scary. So joining mom groups or just speaking up in general would help another person in every parent, honestly, while they're going through this situation with RSV lung infection.
Yeah. And we know how those mom groups are so, so, so important. Yeah. Clementine, your testimony has been so powerful tonight. What do you say to a parent who's on the fence about Beyfortus?
I will let them know that it's okay to be on the fence. It's okay to have questions. Having questions mean you care and you want to know more about how to help your little one. So I would say do your due diligence, talk to your doctors. If something is not sitting well with you, go ahead and do your own research and be your best advocate for your child.
Yes, great questions. Dr. Perkins, what if the doctor doesn't know about Beyfortus?
Okay, not every doctor may be familiar with it yet. If childcare especially is not their main specialty, you can ask them to look into it or refer you to someone who is. You have the right to ask your questions and to get information you need to make the best decision for your baby. And if your doctor doesn't know, another doctor may.
Yeah. And Dr. Perkins, is Beyfortus really free?
Absolutely. For many families, again, it is available at no product cost to them. Before this is usually covered by insurance at minimum, or it is available for free through the Vaccines for Children program. So if your child is on Medicaid, a CHIP, doesn't have insurance at all, they may qualify for VFC. So it all begins by asking your doctor or clinic about your options.
Clementine, Dr. Perkins, such great information. Folks, that is all the time we have for tonight. I want to thank both Dr. Perkins and Clementine for this great discussion. I want to thank all of you who sent in your questions and engaged with us. We know how much you care about your children's health, and we hope this conversation gave you the tools and confidence to take the next step. If we didn't get to your questions tonight, you can also always visit Beyfortus.com or talk to your doctor for more information. What an incredible conversation. We covered a lot. What RSV is, why it matters, and how it affects our communities. And most importantly, what we can do to help our babies. A huge thank you once again to Dr. Perkins and Clementine for sharing their expertise and their personal stories with us. And thank all of you for showing up and being part of this conversation and community. Another big thank you to our partners at Sanofi, the National Black Leadership Commission on Health, the Black Mamas Matter Alliance, Mamas Matter, the Partnership for Maternal and Child Health of Northern New Jersey, and the YMCA of South Florida for bringing us together and making this webinar happen. If it's one thing we hope you all take away from tonight, it's this. You are your baby's best advocate. You don't need to be a medical expert to ask questions, seek answers, and make informed choices. If you're looking for more information, visit Beyfortus.com and check out the free doctor discussion guide. It has questions you can ask your doctor, plus tips for what you should bring and what to expect. You can also find videos and articles about RSV and Beyfortus that are easy to understand and easy to share with others. Whether you're a first-time parent or a seasoned caregiver, there is something there for all of you. If you're part of a mommy group, a community center, or even a group chat with other caregivers, think about sharing what you learned tonight. You never know who might need it. After we wrap up, please take a moment to complete our survey. It helps us improve future events. Thank you for showing up for your babies, for your families, and for each other.